get into our Bears-Vikings preview. Thomas Brown in his first game as interim head coach, it obviously did not go well as the Bears suffer one of their worst losses to the season to the San Francisco 49ers. And, at halftime, I think it was 300 total yards to 2. And so you couldn't have had a worse showing if you're Thomas Brown and what you wanted to see from your team, as Matt Eberflus was shown the door and fired after Thanksgiving. But now it's interesting because you have an opportunity now, if you're Thomas Brown, to show how you bounce back from a loss, how you make adjustments from the things you did wrong against San Francisco. And it's also a game where you are going to make adjustments against a team that you just played as a play caller, as the offensive coordinator with the Minnesota Vikings just a few weeks ago, where you had 400 yards of total offense and Caleb Williams ended the game with 340 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. So they had some success offensively against Minnesota, but now you go to Minnesota this time around and you have Brian Flores, who's certainly going to make adjustments for himself.
Yeah, I'm still kind of I'm still a little upset that Thomas Brown has been taken down from that skybox. I thought that's where he was most effective, and a firing. I thought a lot of thought needs to go into that firing and how it is going to affect this team when you bring Thomas Brown down to the field. And in week 1, it's had a negative effect. So, with that being said, either way, the guy that's up there now, it wasn't a good first outing for him. And now going into the Vikings that have had weeks to adjust from the last game that they played against the Bears, and Bears having weeks to adjust from that game and what they've seen from the Vikings. I guess I guess the thing that I take the most from this game upcoming against the Vikings is take it one play at a time, take it one series at a time, and try to win the down, win the down, win the series, extend the series, no matter what it is, just focus on that rather than what the point differential is in that game, whether it's close, whether it's wide, win a series, and then win another one and try to get some points out of that drive. Defensively, getting your doggone gaps. All right, let's stop this run. Let's make them one-dimensional, and let's take this one series at a time and get off the doggone field. And then we'll see whatever happens after the game. And that's at this point with the Bears. That's the way you got to look at things.
Well, and the way fans constantly look at things, including myself, I'm a victim of this, is like all we care about is how's Caleb Williams going to do in this game? Because we're looking ahead to the future, and we want this offense to just keep stair-stepping up, because for fans, we believe when we look at a team like the Kansas City Chiefs or some of the best teams in the NFL, the Bills or whoever, you need a high-octane offense to survive and win a championship. But at the same time, the problem with the Bears right now, certainly over this 7-game losing streak, is their defense has fallen off precipitously. I mean, that was what was winning them games early in the season, games they maybe shouldn't have won, like against the Titans week 1, but your defense was holding serve. And so now you look at the last time you played the Vikings, and you can talk about the offensive success that the Bears had against them, but look at what the Vikings were able to do against the Bears, from their side of the ball offensively. Sam Darnold goes 22 of 34 for 330 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Aaron Jones runs for 22 carries on 106 yards on a 5-yard per carry average. So, you had Jordan Addison break loose for 162 yards, TJ Hawkinson for 142 yards on 7 catches. George Kittle just tore you a new one against San Francisco, so they seem to be having trouble covering the tight end here lately. Justin Jefferson was the one that was kind of non-existent in the last game as quote-unquote a decoy because you've got so many eyes on him. But, if this Bears defense, gives up these kind of numbers again to the Vikings, it could be a long day at the office on the road, on primetime Monday night.
Yeah, I'd say smoke and mirrors. I'd say, the high octane offense that every Bears fan is looking for there's a lot of smoke and mirrors there. Even look at who is arguably the best quarterback in the league right now. You know, Patrick Mahomes, and people think that he's not playing well, and they've only got one loss. Okay, they've been able to power themselves to Super Bowls through offense. They've been able to power themselves through the Super Bowl through defense, and they've been heavily leaning on their defense as of late. But the thing about it is, you know, these teams, and it's shown, like the figures have shown, teams in the NFL that throw 60% or more find themselves in the losers bracket. Like they find themselves not making the playoffs because they're throwing too much. You're doing too much. You're asking too much of these quarterbacks to come out and throw a ball and sling the ball every play. And when you do that, you have heavy tendencies. And if you have heavy tendencies, any smart defensive coach is going to take advantage of that. So for the Bears, you know, we've got to find a way to protect. We've got to find a way to protect and limit these sacks. Everybody looks at Caleb and they say, oh, man, all I care about is Caleb's progression. Well, if you don't care about what's happening outside of Caleb, then Caleb's progression is going to sink, okay? So he needs – you can't do it alone. You cannot do this. You know, this is the ultimate team sport. On offense, you need all 11 players. On defense, you need all 11 players. So if Caleb is ascending and there are 21 players that are descending, you know, where does that put us? Where does that put the state of the Bears? Mm-hmm. You know, so we need these guys to play some inspired football. You know, and inspired football isn't dancing when you're down 31-6 and we score a touchdown. That's not it. You know what I mean? So play inspired football so that we can continue to keep guys around and know that you're going to be part of this build with Kate.
Yeah, it's well said. And, you know, when you talk about, you know, protecting the quarterback, making sure you're not taking as many sacks. I think they had 7. They give up 7 sacks to the San Francisco 49ers. The odd part is when you played Minnesota, they only had 3 sacks. And if you looked at the numbers statistically for Caleb Williams against the blitz with Minnesota the last time around, they did very well. They were prepared for it. So, you know, then the Niners aren't as known for the blitzing that Brian Flores is going to bring in all the different looks. But, you know, obviously it didn't go the same way. So there's certainly some adjustments that need to be made from last Sunday. But hopefully Thomas Brown can kind of replicate some of the success they did have with some of the looks they were getting at the line of scrimmage from Brian Flores, because he's gonna do some really unique things where he's gonna bring everybody in the box, and it looks like they're gonna blitz the house, and then they only send 2 rushers, you know, and now everybody's dropped back in a zone, and you have to be prepared for that moment. And so that's, you know, that kind of defense can really confuse a rookie quarterback. But Caleb, first time around, yes, they did come back, you know, down 11 with 30 seconds left. So there was a little bit of luck and smoke and mirrors, as you called it, to the end of that game and some of the statistics that you throw out there. And one of the things that you also mentioned too is, you know, don't lean so heavily on your quarterback to make all the plays. As I said, to your point, he threw 47 times in that game, 32 of 47. And guess who the leading rusher was in that game? Caleb Williams. So when you look at Minnesota and how they won that game, they run for over 100 yards with Aaron Jones at 5 yards per carry. DeAndre Swift goes for 13 carries and 30 yards on a 2-yard per carry clip. So if they can't establish a run, they're going to have another long day.
Okay, but to the Bears' defense on not rushing a lot, you know, when you bring that many guys up front, the answer to that is getting the ball to the edges right now. So there were those wide receiver hitches and screens and stuff like that. That is the equivalent of rushes, and the Bears did that extremely well, and that's the reason why a lot of those yards, they got a lot of yards against that team. There are specifics that you have to adapt to depending on what team that you play. There's adjustments that have to be made, and against a Vikings team that shows, you know, 6-7 at the line of scrimmage, get it to the edge, get the ball out to the edge right now, and where you have the numbers and we can win.
Interesting. You know, and I can remember last year when Luke Getsy and Justin Fields were trying to figure out Minnesota and their defense on a primetime stage. And there was a lot of frustration from fans, myself included, that everything was east and west. They're not throwing enough, slants, and stuff over the middle. They're blitzing off the edge. Why aren't we attacking the side that they're blitzing on and throw over the middle? So I guess my question to you is, when you say the looks they're showing at the line of scrimmage, then the answer to that equation is get the ball out quick to the outside. How can you – does it come a point where you just have to run what you're going to run regardless of what you're looking at, because Brian Flores is putting such disguised looks at the line of scrimmage?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways that you can attack it. You got to look at you got to work with your coaching staff. That's why it's important to have good minds, really good minds that are around you. You have an offensive line coach that really wants to run the ball. Your tight ends coach is in between, but he wants his tight ends to shine. Your running backs coach wants to get the ball to his running back in any way, shape, or form. So when you go against a team, and obviously we all know about the receivers coach, but when you go against this team, you say, okay, if they're going to load the box, your offensive line coach, hey, listen, we can manipulate them by, we're going to trap them right here. We're going to trap them. Well, coach, they're dropping right now. So if they're dropping and we're looking at first and second down, well, coach, they're dropping on, 50% of the play. So we're not sure if we're going to get that play or we're going to get this play. This could cause problems for that trap or whatever it is that we run there. Well, maybe we wham them, and okay, coach, what if we get the ball out to our receivers right now, and make them come out, make them, where we have numbers on the outside of the box, so there's a conversation that should be going on and say, okay, this is what plan B is going to look, or plan A is going to look like. All right. If plan A doesn't, if they stop this, and stop this in our first 15 scripted plays, then we're going to move to our plan B section. All right. If they stop this, because we have so many good minds, where's actually a plan C? And plan C might be going back to this. All right, let's just play. This is who we are. When those plans don't work out, then we go back to this is just us right here. But plan A, B, and C should be you regardless of what the emergency plan is.
Yeah, certainly interesting stuff there. And I think maybe also, putting guys in motion pre-snap to try to get the tell from the defense and changing your formation looks.
Absolutely.
Pre-snap is a trick to kind of get the tell from what you guys are trying to do defensively. So it'll be an interesting game of chess. And like I said, an opportunity for Thomas Brown to show adjustments off a loss and adjustments, from a game and a matchup where you've already played this team and you've had some success offensively and you've had some failures defensively. And now it's going to be on the primetime stage. So there's no hiding, from any of the scrutiny that'll come if you guys don't come prepared to put out a much better showing than you did against San Francisco. So ultimately, something me and you have talked about many times here in the last week since the game on Sunday, the hope is play for some pride here and let's show that you guys have a little bit more backbone than it felt like you showed in that game against San Francisco, because the effort was just unacceptable across the board.
And play for your ability to say, I'm going to be a part of this championship build that we're building here in Chicago. I mean, I should be one of these players, so, if you don't play inspired, if you don't play well, and you continue to be a reason why we're not being productive defensively or offensively, you're going to be gone.
We all silly like the mayor.